how did you acquire a chicken?
At the end of that week of her being with me, I had fallen for her.
Has this chick prevented you from meeting other chicks, maybe more of the human persuasion?
It was a new chapter in my life. She's had a big effect on my life, and it's been an amazing journey.
Rockhopper here, and I'm here with Chad, the chicken dad, also known as the chicken man of Sedona. And you're gonna find out why. We're here in Sedona, Arizona. Chad, tell us a little bit about your life and how did you acquire a chicken?
She Bubba D came into my life about 3.5 years ago as a surprise. A friend of mine was doing a chicken raising project with her son at their school, and acquiring different breeds of chicken was one of the goals. And so She Bubba D was a Polish crested chicken that was entered into the mix as one of the different types of 20. And I was helping periodically with these pickups from the feed stores and things of these young chicks, and helping with taking care of them a little bit. At the end of the project, all these chickens needed homes, and they were all about, a month and a half, 2 months old by this time. And She Bubba D was scheduled to go to a rancher. My friend Lisa, who was head of the project, asked me if I could take her in for a week until this rancher could come and pick her up. Well, you can guess what happened. At the end of that week of her being with me, I had fallen for her, and I asked if I could keep her. And so that's how she came into my life. I had never owned a chicken before. I love all animals, but I had never considered a chicken as a pet. And so it was a new chapter in my life, and learning, very much a learning experience of the chicken world. And it's been an amazing journey, and much appreciated. She's had a big effect on my life in a positive way.
So you finally found a chick you just couldn't resist.
That's right, or some say that she chose me. I guess maybe we chose each other. Some make the comment, well, she's the luckiest chicken in the world. I say, oh, I don't know, I'm a pretty lucky human, too. Or is she your chicken? I say, yeah, I guess, or I'm her human, So, in some situations she rules the roost, so to speak. She helps me keep grounded, I would say, and I think pets do in general. But she's the most fragile pet I've ever owned. I've owned dogs, and cats, and pony at one point, different animals like this, and I love them all. But they were all a lot more hardy, and the way I could play with them, what I could do with them was much more vigorous. Whereas with She Bubba D, she's much more fragile, and so I have to watch my actions around here, or it can scare her, or something could fall on her and hurt her. So it's taught me to be a little more gentle and conscious of my movements.
Does Bubba D, or She Bubba D, as you like to call her, does she travel well with you?
She does, actually, very well. She's not very demanding, and she's usually very quiet. She makes little cute sounds. What I learned once I got a little more into the chicken world, again, this is a new world for me. If you're going to have a pet chicken, which they are more popular these days, it would seem, Polish crested chickens, come to find out, by the luck of the draw with me, tend to make some of the best pets, apparently, for a few different reasons. One, they are generally quieter. All right. Two, they're generally smaller, and they can't fly as high and far. All right. So these are a few reasons why they're easier to take care of, apparently. And they apparently just naturally adapt to people very easily. They usually have a reputation of being gentle. They don't peck. So a lot of people I've come across are afraid of these chickens and birds because they've had negative experiences when they were young. But after they meet Bubba D and are around her for a little while, they they're not all like that, and this one is definitely not. She's very loving and friendly to people. She absolutely loves people, and she's never pecked anybody. She's pretty easy. There is the scat you have to clean up because I have not found a way at this point to potty train her like you can a dog, you know, to go outside, or a cat to go in a litter box. So there is that. Um, but it's not much, you know. When she goes, it's just little. So I keep napkins, or excuse me, tissues around in boxes, and I just clean it right up.
So anybody out there who might want to invent chicken diapers?
That is a very good question. Again, I think owning ducks and chickens as pets has become much more popular for a few different reasons. And actually, there's about 10 different companies, if you do online research, about chicken diapers that produce them, including Pamper. Pamper actually produces a chicken slash duck diaper now. Like, that's how popular it's become as a trend of having a chicken as a pet. Yeah, come to find out.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's true. However, Bubba D, I've tried, or She Bubba D, um, to get those for her. She will not wear them. I think, you know, She Bubba D came into my life a couple months after her birth, and she was in an environment that was a little bit challenging. I think, you know, pecking orders and things like this. And so she came into my life with a little bit of toughness about her, and maybe that's a reason, because I've seen other, you know, videos of chickens that people have, YouTube videos where they're conducive to very much wearing the diapers. Leashes too. There's a harness like leash you can buy for them. And again, I see this on YouTube of people using these. She Bubba D will not use those. But I think if I would have had her from a young chick, sort of in an isolated environment with myself, growing up, then it would probably be different. All right. But I did invent a leash for her after a number of different experiments of trying, because at one point there was a necessity of having a leash because of a leash law around here. When I was taking her to parks and things, I was actually getting confronted by officers that she needs to be on a leash. And so I tried different methods, and finally one worked, and that was a way of clipping a leash to her tail feather. That worked, and that was, I must say, that was a monumentous day when I discovered that would work, and she would tolerate that.
Now, chickens are a little bit of a vulnerable bird. Have you ever had any close calls with anything like?
Yes, very much so. And you're right. Of the birds, they are especially vulnerable because they can't fly, you know, so much like other birds can. They can fly short hops, you know, and things like this. But you'll say like a parakeet. You know, I grew up at one point and had a parakeet when I was young. It could easily, you know, fly all the way up into a tree if necessary, or to a high point in the house if something was threatening it, you know. And so She Bubba D is very vulnerable, actually, because there's a lot of animals, especially here in the Sedona area, that could potentially eat her. And even, you know, if you're in an urban scenario, a dog, you know, could easily take her, or a cat, if they're not chicken friendly. And since I've had her, people have shared all kinds of stories about situations where they had chickens that were killed, you know, in these scenarios. But she's had some close calls. I do keep a weary eye on her anytime she's out, a watchful eye. Sometimes even setting alarms to remind me to look, you know, where she's at if I'm working. A couple of different times she's had a hawk fly down right in front of her, and that's one of the things I watch for is hawks. And she just stared at it. They were face to face, and I was close enough distance where I could have done something if it would have, you know, attacked, but it didn't in both situations. Just kind of stayed there for a little bit and then flew off. In my opinion, Bubba D has a little bit of a charm in her for animals. A number of times too, dogs have come up who probably wouldn't be considered chicken friendly and hadn't been raised around chickens. And at first they're ready to just chase her, but when they come right up and they see me there and they see here that they pause, and take in the situation, and then calm down usually. And I've seen cats do this too. I've seen cats that were obviously feral cats come and just lay down right beside her before. So maybe she has a little bit of charm in this area. I wouldn't test it. I wouldn't want to put that to the test. But in certain situations, it has happened, and she has been fortunate in these situations. One time, she got chased by a javelina. Out here in this area, we have these small pig-like creatures called javelinas, and I was letting her forage. I do some of my office work for my company outside in the forest, so she can forage while I'm doing my office work. I had my shoes off that day, and this decent-sized javelina, a big male, comes out of the woods, actually up towards me. And I love javelinas. I think they're one of my totem animals. I've had some close encounters, positive outcomes. But it comes right up, and I'm like, oh, hello. But then it sees Bubba D out of the corner of its eye, and it just gets all excited and starts running at Bubba D. And Bubba D takes off running. I got my shoes off, so I hurriedly put my shoes back on and run around the car, and then Bubba D's heading for a tree. The javelina's hot on her tail, and I just ran over to the javelina, and it darted off. Another time, a big black hawk. This was at a park down in Cottonwood, and I was there actually doing a dance routine that day. I do dance routines sometimes in the forest, and I was doing that. She was close by, and all of a sudden this big black hawk that we have in those forests down there in Cottonwood comes swooping down. And Bubba D, I caught out of the corner of my eye, but she just darted right underneath a bush. She knew, this one was not going to come down and sit next to her. This one was coming for the food, and she just instinctually darted right under a thick brush. And then the thing came down and sat on a tree limb right above it, but I was there close enough, and I went over there and looked at it, and decided to take off. So those are some of the close encounters she's had with wildlife. I do say Bubba D is a chicken with 9 lives. She's had some close calls. She got hit by a car one time. Yeah, and it was that age-old why did the chicken try to cross the road? I don't know. I was at the Oak Creek, and I like to snorkel in the Oak Creek, and I have a special spot I was doing that. And while I do this, she is on the bank of the Oak Creek. There's a nice spot for her there. And there's a really steep bank off to the left there that leads up to the road. And so I usually didn't have any concern because she stays right there, not trying to go up this steep bank towards the road while I'm snorkeling, all right? On this particular day, she tried to go up that steep bank and made it all the way up to the road, unbeknownst to me. I didn't even think I had to watch for this. There were some other people there a little further down, and all of a sudden they saw her, and I saw the glimpse of my eyes. I was coming out of the water, her running down the hill, and they said she had squawked, and they saw some feathers, and she came running down that hill, and I immediately got out of the water and ran over to her, and her leg was damaged. It looked like it was broken. It was bleeding, and so obviously she had been hit, but she had just been nicked, fortunately. So I didn't see it, but I proposed that she got up on the road, tried to cross. Here comes the car, and maybe it swerved at the last moment, and she just got clipped. And then she ran back down the hill. She was very lucky, and one thing I will mention too is I've not encountered a vet that will take in chickens to work on. Because at different points like this, I would call around to see if there were any vets that would, and none would. Okay, so this is something to consider too. If you're going to have a chicken as a pet, generally you have to provide your own vet care for them. All right, which I'm fine with. I do a lot of this, my own medical work on myself, And so I would apply this to her, and it has worked thus far. But yeah, with her leg, you know, I watched it. I did a lot of healing methods on it and using different ointments and things like this, and watching her, and eventually the leg came fully back to health again. But it does have a lump on it now. That was a situation where I say she's got 9 lives. There was a case earlier on in her life where I had a place and I was doing some cleaning, and I had left a cleaning solution out, and she went and drank it, and it knocked her out to the point where she just could not move. Thought she might die. She was young. I was very sad, and a friend of mine and myself worked on her for about a week, doing different healings and feeding her through a dropper. You know, even though she couldn't open her eyes, we would make sure, you know, liquids were going into her. Um, this was one of the reasons I kept the name Bubba D, because at the beginning of her life, Bubba D was kind of a generic name I was using until I could think of a different name that was more appropriate, watching her personality. But during this time, I was doing a lot of sort of like praying manifestations using that name. And so when she eventually came back to, after about a week of being out, I decided to keep that name with her. But yes, after about a week, she came back to, but she couldn't move her legs. So I was like, wow, okay, maybe I've got a pet chicken now with paralyzed legs. I was just happy that she came back too. Very happy. So I was accepting that. You know, I might just, you know, if you, sometimes you see these dogs that scoot around on little wheels, you know, after they've had legs amputated and things. I thought, well, maybe this will be my situation with my pet chicken. But anyway, for the whole next week, if I just worked with her legs. If you ever do bicycle with a kid, you know, this is what I was doing with her legs every day, so getting some movement and doing some healings on her, positive things like this. And after another week, her legs came back to use again. And it was a joyous day when that happened. She could walk again. But that's one of the reasons I kept that name, Bubba D. And I'll say, when I first got her, I was told that she was a male. She was a rooster. And Bubba D is kind of a masculine name. The D, for various reasons, stood for a W. Then 10 months in, she laid an egg. Clued me in that she was a hen. Now, that was kind of funny. The first morning I came in and saw that egg there, I thought someone had played a joke on me. I used to run an open mic that got pretty popular here in Sedona, and she grew up around that. That's why she loves music and musicians, okay? But I had just had that open mic the night before, and everybody loved Bubba D. They would come for the open mic. That was one of the treats, was seeing her. She'd get to run around. So I thought my friend Jim Reich, who has chickens, had put an egg in her little, you know, chicken pen in the place. It was a joke. Like, okay. But then the next morning I came and found another egg. Then I knew.
Speaking of Bubba D, let's go find her and make sure she's okay.
Very well said. Very well said. It's something we always want to do. She generally stays close, you know, within a short radius of us.
Yeah.
But it's always good to know where she is. Because out here you never know if there's a bobcat or, you know, a coyote that's, you know, sneaking up, or just some other animal of the air.
Yeah.
So I always try to
So there she is.
make sure I know.
She's right there.
Yeah.
Bubba D.
Now notice how she scratched out that dirt right there. See that?
Yeah.
She loves the dirt underneath juniper trees. I think there's certain nutrients in that dirt, and then there's probably little critters in it too that she likes as well. But I heard, you know, if you have, again, a pet chicken, if you can take them out, you know, to the forest on any semi-regular basis or regular basis, they get those nutrients. So they will be much healthier if you can do that with them periodically. Now with She Bubba D, I do it at least once a day. And that's the only time she'll complain. I said she doesn't make much noise. But if she doesn't get her outdoor time, because she's grown up with it, then she will by midday start complaining. But she absolutely loves this, and she loves to be able to forage, is what that's called. Yeah, and right underneath these juniper trees is some of the best soil. Sometimes she'll take what's called a dirt bath. Chickens do this, come to find out. Okay, and that's funny to watch. You know, I've got some videos of her taking dirt baths, you know, but apparently their skin needs it. And so she'll get in there, maneuver around, and shake around in that dirt and flip it in certain ways so it goes through her feathers and gets on her skin. It's really funny, awesome to watch. And then once she's done with it all, I mean, it looks like she's going to a spa. I mean, she makes dirt look good. And then she gets up and just shakes, and all this dirt flies off. It's a dirt bath.
Has she ever had any romantic interest in another?
Good question. There's times where I don't know if she realizes she's a chicken. Okay? Because I've seen her, like, all of a sudden with certain people, like, it's like she instantly falls for them. And then she wants to be around them. She's trying to get on their shoulders. Doesn't happen very often, you know, but it happens. But I have tried to introduce her to chickens. And maybe she would play with them, I thought, or just have chicken companions. And she wouldn't respond. She would actually be standoffish to them. If they came closer, she would try to peck at them. Again, I don't know if she knows she's a chicken. But I did have one encounter recently where I was at a ranch scenario because of a friend I was helping out, and there was a chicken habitat, an animal habitat close by, and as I was helping her, Sheba Badi was wandering around, and she went over to that habitat. It wasn't heavily fenced, so she was able to get inside, and there was a rooster that took a liking to her and started coming over to her. And more surprising was Sheba Badi let the rooster come over to her and didn't try to run or peck at it. And instead she just walked around that habitat, and here the rooster was following her, you know, for a decent amount of time. And then the rooster turned around, went a different direction, and Sheba Badi followed that rooster around. And then for about the next hour, it seemed they followed each other around. And so I think Bubba D has a thing for that rooster. And I know where that ranch is, of course. And so it is my goal to take her back there. And perhaps I've been invited to go there on a regular basis. And perhaps that will be her love interest, this rooster.
Well, it has been said that a hen likes a good cock.
Wise words. Yes, very wise words. Speaking of that, you know, Sheba Badi laid her first egg about 10 months in, and then she stopped laying about a year and a half ago. So she laid consistently for about a year and a half. But I have heard that sometimes hens will stop laying, first of all, at that age. Sometimes they just stop laying at that age. But also, they're more likely to lay if there's a rooster around. It doesn't necessarily have to be mating with them, but just its presence will stimulate them to lay. So maybe if I take her around this rooster, maybe she'll start laying eggs again. All right, we'll see. It's not something that I need to happen, you know. It's not going to increase my love for Bubba D or her worth in my life. But it's just a sign of maybe her happiness if she is stimulated to lay by this
It adds a new dimension to the term getting laid.
It certainly does. It certainly does. And yeah, there's many a term that I've heard, you know, while owning Bubba D. I've been called a chick magnet. Got a great chick in your life. All kinds of little jokes about Sheba Bubba D and myself. And I try to just roll with it all, you know. Even in restaurants, Sedona's pretty much an animal-friendly town. A lot of the restaurants and even public spaces allow pretty easily animals in, you know. Some don't, but most do. And so Sheba Bubba D has a little animal backpack that I carry her around in. And so I'll take her into stores, restaurants, and sometimes if I take her in a restaurant, there's jokes about, oh, is she going to be taken in the back? Is this what's going to be on our plate? You know, jokes about you know, Bubba D being a food source, you know. So I just roll with it. I just say, well, everybody loves Bubba D one way or the other, you know.
So being that you're in the Arizona desert, if you
Uh-huh.
leave Bubba D out a little too long, does that mean you've got a hot chick?
Yes, definitely, definitely do. Matter of fact, people ask me, does she have a problem when it gets cold? You know, do you have to watch for that? Uh, and this is the case with birds. You know, some birds are much more sensitive to the heat. Some are much more sensitive to the cold. And a she-bubba does better in the cold than she does in the heat. All right, she definitely needs to be taken care of. You know, you wouldn't want to leave her out in the open all night if it's freezing weather. But having said that, she just takes cold a lot better than when in the middle of the summer. That's where I have to be more aware of her situation and what I need to do to keep her cool and things. Yeah, because she will definitely turn into a hot chick pretty quick in the middle of the summer.
Well, you're a guy who can definitely say you have a hot chick on your hands. And
Well, just
especially
look at that. I mean,
right now, look at
you
that.
know,
That
could you
is,
ask for anything more?
look at that face.
Uh-huh. Yes, the D does stand for diva. Now that I know she's a hen, and I think she lives up to that. She loves to preen her feathers when she's getting attention, usually in an environment where she feels comfortable. She preens her feathers.
Has this chick prevented you from meeting other chicks, maybe more of the human persuasion?
I would say yes and no. Okay, because yeah, I think some women would not want to be in a relationship with someone with a pet chicken for various reasons. But others very much would want that. And I've had some women I could tell even more like, oh, he must be a sensitive man, or look how he's taking care of this pet that needs probably a little more attention and sensitivity than say a dog or a cat. And you can tell they like that. So I could it could go either way. But what I say is, if I'm going to be with a woman, then the right woman for me is one that would uh, be very conducive to Bubba D as well. And recently I found out that most birds, and especially chickens, have what's called a preen gland on their back, right around here. And I noticed that she was dipping her beak back there. Over time I would watch her when she preened her feathers. And when I looked closely, there was a little nodule back there. And I thought it was a wart or something that she was trying to chew off. But come to find out, that's an actual gland that they have. And when they're preening their feathers, when they put their beak back there, they're dipping their beak on that gland, getting oil on their beak, and they're spreading that around on their feathers to oil their feathers. And that apparently helps them keep in heat, as well as make them more waterproof, and just makes their skin and feathers more healthy to have that oil. But I've met, since then, since I discovered this, other people who've had chickens all their lives, have raised their chickens, on farms, and didn't know of this preen gland these chickens have, and birds in general.
So now you're
So,
telling me you've got a slick chick.
you know, um, she's multidimensional, and again, I'm happy. I'm happy with this chick in my life. She definitely has. She's elevated my life, and has taught me many things. Being more gentle, patient, centered. To take care of her. Something I mentioned too is that I'm extra wanting to provide an environment that's safe for her, for like housing and food. Sort of like you would maybe for your child. And particularly with hers, like say if I had a dog or a cat and something were to happen to me, generally speaking, you're going to think that the dog or a cat's going to go to a new home, right? Someone's going to adopt them. They're going to go to the Humane Society, whatever, and someone's going to adopt them. What about a chicken? If something happens to me, right, financially or whatever, what's going to happen to her? You know, she's probably going to go to a ranch or something like that, if even that, and she may quickly end up a food source, you know, for somebody. She doesn't lay anymore. So this keeps me too even more centered on I've got to keep my life at a certain way to provide, because as a pet, I think she's even more dependent on me than, say, a dog or a cat. I'm going to put Bubba D in her carrier. After some experimentation, I just hold it up to her, dip her sort of in, and she goes right in. And then this zips up, and then I can put it on my back. And this came into my life about a year ago through the recommendation of a friend. I think it's mainly meant for small dogs and cats, but it has made such a big difference in taking care of Bubba D.
We're all birds of a feather here. We love the great outdoors.
Oh yeah, Bubba D's very happy now she got her outdoor time, so birds of the feather we are.
I have to say, I think you really won this chick over. This is your office?
Yes, yeah, it's my mobile office, and I have a tour business. It's named Adventure, Explore, and Soar. And so yeah, this is the office, and I do a night sky tour. It's star stories and astronomy concepts, a little bit of tie-in with Sedona's vortexes as well. And that is my daytime tour, is a vortex type tour. Yes, it is my passion, and Bubba D comes on all the tours now. And that was an evolution. You know, when I first got her, I wondered, what would I do when I was on tour? And some people said, well, you should take her. Other people said, no, don't take her. You know, people are afraid of chickens, or that wouldn't work. But ultimately, I just decided to take her and see what would happen. And it's been about a 95% at least approval, and people love her generally on the tours. She really adds.
So if somebody wants to find you, how do they find you to do a tour?
That's a good question. You can click your heels together 3 times and say adventureexploreandsoar.com.
Sadly, she Bubba D passed away shortly before this was released. May she cluck and scratch in the fields of heaven. I hope you enjoyed meeting Chad, the Chicken Man of Sedona. Don't forget to give me a like on the video, share, and subscribe. Until next time, this is Rockhopper. I'll see ya.